All right, well, let's jump back into the tropics because new yesterday and this morning, we now have two areas of potential tropical development to monitor in the Atlantic. It's been a pretty quiet lull that we've been on for the last week or so. We saw Cristobal form, and then we had the two invests, 92 and 94L, and neither of those came to fruition. And then we hit a bit of a quiet streak. Now, two other areas that we need to pay attention to in the Atlantic. So we'll start with the central Atlantic. This is the closest to home, but still pretty far away from the eastern coast of the United States. This is actually a few hundred miles to the southeast of Bermuda. What this is actually a low pressure system now starting to show, which you can see on the satellite and radar here, some disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity around its low pressure system. Now, this is not a system that's progressing very quickly. In fact, overall, the chances of development still sit fairly low. It's a yellow area, which means low chances of development. And when you look at the key here, 10% chance of development in the next 2 days, only a 20% chance of development in the next 7 days. It's unlikely that we'll see it become anything while it's sitting in this exact spot, but it is forecasted to drift a little bit further over to the west and to the northwest eventually. As it does that, it enters this environment right here that is slightly more favorable for tropical development. So it at least bears watching as it moves into that environment. But again, it's a slow mover. So that's not going to happen within the next 2 days. This will kind of slowly drift this direction as we head into the next week or so. And that is when this is a system worth watching. So not a lot to say about that right now, but of course we'll keep our eye on it as we head into kind of the long-term forecast. But there is a secondary area of potential tropical development a lot further away from the United States. This is up in the northeastern Atlantic. Actually, it's just a little bit further to the north of Azores. Now, this is another area of low pressure. It's not a tropical area of low pressure, but as it drifts a little bit further southeast towards Portugal, it could start to show some tropical characteristics. Now, here's the catch with this area of low pressure. Another area that's given overall low chances of tropical development, only a 20% chance in the next 2 days or a 20% chance in the next 7 days. When these numbers match, we kind of know what that means. That means that it needs to happen within the next 2 days or it's not happening at all. So as the system moves into kind of this area of potential development over the next 2 days, so Saturday into Sunday, this is where we could start to see it show some signs of tropical or subtropical development. But by Sunday night, it's going to drift into some colder waters, and the chances of it becoming anything are completely squashed. So this is a system that we've got to keep our eye on for the next 2 days or so, but beyond that, it is unlikely to become anything at all. So that's kind of what's going on right now in the Atlantic. Those two areas of potential tropical development, the first we've talked about in a while. We have only had 3 named storms so far this season. We've had Arthur, Bertha, and Cristobal. The next name to claim, if either of those systems started to organize and become something, would be Dolly. And this comes as kind of an unusual time of year. Normally during this time of year, we're actually typically have already seen the first hurricane. On average, that date is August 11th when the first hurricane forms. And now the next date that we look towards is actually the peak of the season, which occurs on September 10th. So when you look at this map, normally during this time frame, in between the average date that we see the first hurricane and the peak of the season, we actually tend to see a pretty big uptick in activity. We should be seeing lots of names being taken, lots of storms being formed during this time of year, but the El Nino conditions are continuing to strengthen and actually expected to reach super El Nino strength as we head into the rest of the year. So all that wind shear in the Atlantic, the drier air, the cooler sea surface temperatures, all of those factors are coming together to make it just a hostile tropic season in the Atlantic, and it makes it very difficult for any of those systems to form. So, of course, we'll keep watching those two areas of potential tropical development, but at least for right now, not showing super high signs of promise. We'll kind of keep our eye on the next week or so to see what they do. But for now, we continue to sit at a fairly quiet point in the tropic season.